Hello, good evening. As always, I hope that my Go Live is finding you guys well. I've really enjoyed chatting with many of you in the group chat, and my hopes with our group chat is that our group can get to know each other a bit better and share different ideas and even questions as they arise so that we can help each other grow and learn and overall have it be a very supportive, nurturing environment for people who are new to tarot, including those who are very much experienced in it, because we all always have room for growth and improvement, and especially with something as complex as tarot, with all the symbols and all that good stuff that we go into generally every evening. Except for Sundays, of course. So there's just so much room for us to be able to help each other with our journeys with tarot, or just to life in general, just to check in with each other and see how someone is doing. Because there's so many great people in our group. And even though, of course, I'm strong at what I do and I'm a good tarot reader, there's more insights than just mine. So that's why I'm hoping even those who are part of my group who do read tarot, if as we go along on our Fool's journey and then we delve eventually into the minor arcana, which are coming up pretty soon, we're almost done with the majors, that they can share their insights and what they see as well. And because that's what I thrive off of. I love gaining people's viewpoints on things, not just my own. I mean, how boring would that be, just to have one narrow-minded sight? Not that I'm narrow-minded, but you know what I mean. It's good to have diverse viewpoints on things. So tonight, we are about to go into the 17th card of the Major Arcana, which is the Star card. And I'm going to hold it up. So just take in all of that. And I'm really glad that we have progressed to this card after encountering the Devil and the Tower, which were two very heavy cards, and I'll hold them up. So the 15th card was the Devil, okay? The 16th being the Tower. So that's an awful lot to go through, and now we finally made it to the Star card. And I would encourage those people, if they miss my Go Lives about those cards, feel free to go back and watch them on my page or YouTube, because it really adds to the emphasis of why it's a good thing that our seeker has reached this point of the journey after experiencing so much loss. So with the Star card, we will start off with the symbols. So up here is the Roman numeral for 17. And we see a naked woman, okay? And so she's looking down into the water, and one foot is in the water. And so remember what I always tell you guys, water is synonymous with emotion in tarot, also with the intuition, okay? So she's got one foot in the water, and then the other one is firmly planted on the ground. So with the ground, we have more of that logic and objectivity. And you see that she's got one cup that's emptying into this little pond, okay? And then the other one is trickling down upon the earth and making its way back down into the pond and elsewhere. So after doing my research, what I determined, the left hand would be the subconscious, okay? And then the right hand would be our conscious. So when you think about the subconscious, that would be like when we go to a dream state, all the things that we dream. And also it could be our inner viewpoints on ourselves, our inner opinions. It doesn't matter if it's true or not. This could be what people have told you from the time that they've known you, negative interactions that you've internalized and adopted as an opinion of yourself, Or it could just be you beat yourself up and have a lot of negative ideas about yourself that just simply aren't based in truth. But they do impact the conscious. So it goes to show that it's just like that infinity symbol. They feed on each other. So when you think of the left with the subconscious, just think generally speaking, the left is the non-dominant hand. For most people, they're right-handed. So that's dominant, which is your conscious, okay? Which is the primary way that we perceive our world and our thought processes, right? So when you think about that, so she's having to basically ponder upon her intuition and her inner voice, because at this point in time, the Fool has experienced so much loss and had to start all over yet again on the journey and make peace with what didn't work out, to where they're really having to reflect on, why in the world am I putting myself through this? And why don't I just turn right back around, because I've had it? At this point, our seeker probably feels like quite the failure, very maybe incompetent to even complete this journey. So our seeker is having to think of the higher purpose of what's the whole point in all this. So our consciousness, going back to this water, it trickles right back into our subconscious. So the two do feed off each other. And it's coming to peace with that. And again, doing that shadow work when we have these negative viewpoints of ourselves. Again, talk to people who are close to you, your family and friends. Ask their perception, because we all see things differently, including ourselves and the world around us. What do you think about this? Or if it's entirely just way too intimate, and because usually our shadow work is very hurtful in nature, journal and think it through. And this card is about faith. So whatever your religion may be, because we all believe in something, okay? Just if it helps, pray on it, meditate, and think through these things, because you can only compartmentalize things for so long until eventually you do have to face them, because they will literally, these various types of things will eat your insides out, and it's a very hurtful thing. And that's why generally to forgive people is a better thing to do, especially for yourself, because you're giving yourself the gift of internal peace. And plus, we're human. We're screwed up as far as being flawed. We all make mistakes. We say and do things that probably weren't the best things to do at the time. But it's part of that fool's journey that we're all on in life, and that learning curve and learning to forgive yourself. So our Fool is very much in that space of like, wow, you know, I mean, when I say he, of course, it's a gender neutral. It could be he or she. But he's like, wow, you know, I've really encountered all these various characters, and I failed to just continue going forward. And he's like thinking, what is my bigger purpose? So the woman is not dressed, and it symbolizes a feeling of vulnerability. This figure is not hidden behind clothing whatsoever and feels very much exposed. And to me, when I see this, this is somebody who's getting back to their roots, to nature and grounding. And again, after the traumatic events of the Devil and the Tower cards, healing and replenishing their energy. And again, that intuition and reflecting about their bigger meaning. What is their life's purpose? How are they feeling? And trying to make sense of their feelings, not just the literal conscious side of objectivity and literal, say, processing of data that we do all the time, and understanding the stimuli that's around us on a daily basis that we're having to categorize in our minds, because we have all sorts of stuff that happens around us really rapidly. And at times it's a lot to take in, right? So it's good to have this quiet time, because you got to think, well, how does this card make you feel? So think about it like you or this person in the card, other than hoping there's no bugs outside so they're not eating you up. Like especially in Missouri. Missourians know what I'm talking about. A lot of mosquitoes around here, especially in the summertime. But let's not even think about those guys. So imagine what it's like to be butt naked and you're outside and it's a starry evening and the sky is really well lit and you're out in this really expansive green area and you've suffered a lot of loss, and how it must feel like it's almost like you're being born again, literally, like you're starting anew, like even the clothing you wore doesn't fit you quite right. It's not even meant for you anymore. After you heal from this card, it's putting new clothing on, new shoes. You perceive the world differently. Again, you've evolved and grown on this life journey and moving forward. This huge star right here is like a compass. So think of that as your North Star. So that would be your bigger purpose in life. And that would be generally your faith. It's having faith. Not everything boils down to logic. It's the big reason of why are you here? What are you hoping to accomplish? And then as far as the other little stars around the big one, I researched that. And those represent the chakras. So that would be crown, okay, which is spirit. The third eye, which is your intuition. It's like another way of saying things. Throat, which is communication. Your heart, which is how we love. Love is a big deal, right? That's a big part of why we have relationships with others and animals and try to do right by them and make the world a better place. The solar plexus. And then there's also the sacral and root. So the solar plexus would be like your gut. That would be like your gut intuition. So those are like high priestess vibes, if you remember her from earlier on in our journey. The sacral, that would be like the tailbone of your back. So that goes more into, like, I don't know a whole lot about that one. I saw it can be more of an intimate meaning, but when I think of sacral, I think of what's supporting your spine and your root, which is how you connect to the earth. So imagine your bare feet on the grass. So people who do yoga would probably have a better understanding of the chakras, but that's like my understanding of them. Let's see here. And I'm looking here because I took some notes here. Now in the background, you'll notice that there is a mountainous region. So our seeker is looking ahead, like the road again is not going to be an easy one. Even after this time of healing, there's obstacles ahead. And so the seeker cannot make it and will not persevere and do well if they don't take the time to rest, recharge, and think of their higher purpose and lean on their faith. This is a time of prayer, meditation, reflection. It's healing your insides out, which I imagine after an encounter with the devil followed by the tower, that any of us would need to heal our insides after such traumatic experiences. And basically, so we mentioned our North Star, and it's all about living your most authentic life. So my daughter just walked in. Hi, Maddie. So again, it's more than just the material things. This is the big question of what's your life purpose, and a lot of us still don't have that answer. We just try to be a better human being than what we were the previous day. And it's really very symbolic of how we are a living vessel for the divine. I wrote that down. And that's true. I do, believe that there's some higher power bigger than us, and it's hard for any of us to wrap our minds around, and that we're just a vessel. So say from a Christian viewpoint, for example, many times I've heard people say that God uses us as a vessel and he works through us. That's one way of looking at it. And then let's see here. I'm looking. And so here, the seeker's making a choice. They're choosing to have hope. This is one of the last things when all of us, in one time or another in life, when things are going pretty poorly and we're feeling lowest of the low and we feel like failures and we doubt ourselves, this is the one thing we hang on to, which gets us out of bed the following day, and we shuffle and put one foot in front of the other saying, today's going to be a better day than yesterday. And I always think about my daddy about many years ago. He would be like, every hound dog has its day. And there's truth to that. You know, and I always think that little bloodshot hound dog, you know, who may have not had the best day, but every day is a new start, you know. And yeah, and then the only other thing that I wrote down here, so let's see, actually two more things. So now, given how the stars are so prevalent in the sky, we've got more illumination on our path. So it's not like the sun's illumination, but we've got more than what we did before, especially in, you know, after we left the Tower card, which was very dark and bleak. Okay, so we've moved past that into this, right? And the other point to mention with this lady not wearing any garments is, I think I may have mentioned it, but I can't remember. She's in a state of feeling very, very vulnerable and just literally stripped to her core. Very raw and exposed. And I know that we've all felt like this. So if you can think about a point where you have felt like that and what you did at that point in time regarding your faith and how you sought a bigger answer or comfort than what anybody else could even provide you, if that makes sense. There's got to be something bigger than us. So yeah, I love this card. I think it's a big improvement from the others, which there's beauty in them. There's medicine in them. We can heal from those cards and reflect. The only other thing that I didn't point out that I want to would be there's a little bird in this tree, which stands for freedom. There's freedom with flight. And then there's a tree growing in the background, which shows growth. It looks like it's a little tree just coming up out of the ground. And that's just what we're all doing. Think of that infinity circle. We're always on a path of reassessing and reevaluating and changing the way we do things. And that's the beauty of being human. It's embracing that we're flawed and moving forward the best that we can. And so now I'll show you guys some other cards with the star. And so here's one with a crow. And so here we have our little bird. And so think of freedom. It's starting anew. And then there's our big, beautiful North Star right here. And in the background, it's a really pretty, dark, starry night. And we've got the 7 smaller stars, like we discussed. Those would be those chakras. And it appears to be water, like water's going over this crow. So it's almost like a little waterfall, and it's got its little wings spread out and it's directing the flow of water. And so we've got some that's going onto the ground again to establish growth, for regrowth, for objectivity. However, we're very much delving into what are we feeling, what our intuition, our inner voice, our subconscious. We're reflecting on these things so that we can heal. But just think of what it must feel like to be outside and have it be all nice and quiet. You may or may not hear a little owl or little crickets chirping. And you look up at the sky and it's a black blanket with holes, which are stars. And by looking up to the heavens that's so big and expansive, we're reminded about how small we are in comparison to the vastness that's the universe, which is like not even something we can quite touch. but it reminds you of the beauty and the potential that's around us and how we very much are connected to Earth and why it's so important to ground and be outside and feel the sunlight on your face and to breathe in that air into your lungs and to know that you can do this, you know, and that there is hope. Hope is, again, what we cling to. And I think with this, I don't think there's anything else with that card I want to point out. And here is very symbolic of what I was just talking about. Here's a lady, and she's reaching toward that star in the heavens, her North Star. So here it's like her internal dialogue. What is her North Star? What is her big purpose in life? Why, like many of us question at times, why are we here? And see, that's the question, right? And here it shows her beautiful hair. It's all long and wavy, and she's up, stretching. And of course, she's not going to reach the star, but from a figurative point of looking at it, she's reaching and she's trying to find out her purpose and connect with her faith and her intuition. And it shows that big, pretty, expansive, starry night. And it looks like she might be in the middle of, like, I don't know, some sort of like vegetation. So with this card, I don't see any water. So you know how we've talked about with some of these cards, you don't see all of the symbols that are, say, used with the original Rider-Waite-Smith. We don't have everything, but we've got that general feeling of this card. And so I always think of, like, for me, this sky reminds me of a Tennessee sky. When you're out in the middle of the country and you look out at that big, pretty black sky and there's little stars sprinkled everywhere. We have skies like that here in Missouri, too. There's just something special to me being I'm from Tennessee. That's where my roots are. So, you know, when I am in Tennessee and I look up, I just think, wow, and you've got those big, expansive mountains around you, just how beautiful that is, you know. And then here we have a lady, and she's also a beautiful lady, and she's got this garment on, so she's not naked like the other one was in the other photo. And it's almost like she's hopeful. It could be she's praying. And it's like she's got a little lasso, like a little rope around her North Star, and there's the enlightenment and the solace and the comfort that comes with clinging to her hope. And look at that beautiful sky. And when we see the purple color, we're thinking of the divine. So we're thinking of our creator, the universe, something way bigger and more expansive than us. And then around her, there's a little bit of black around her. So it's not showing somebody that's totally at peace. So she's overcoming the depths of blackness, this void of feeling horrible, the devil and the tower energy, rising up from that and clinging to her faith and knowing that she rose above all this loss and self-doubt, and she's clinging to that, which is beautiful. And then the last card I have, I don't hate it. I don't love it either, but it's beautiful artwork, and it shows this guy, this little bird here. And on the ribbon, it says, "A hunting we will go." So when I see that, I'm thinking, well, maybe it's because we're hunting for our life purpose and trying to, you know, figure our spirituality out. And again, there's so many dimensions to spirituality. And the skull, and it looks like it's got like a warrior's helmet is there. So this represents like death. It's change. So yet again, our fool is having to go through change, but it's working on their spiritual side, right? And then we have the vegetation. So, but this looks like it's been there for a while. It's not like a new plant coming up like in a Rider-Waite-Smith. Like this little guy looks like new growth. So again, not my favorite card for that, but you know, I see some value in it. So I've been reading a couple different books. And one of the ones I've been reading would be about tarot rituals, which I'll hold this up. And I'm reading like 3 different books at the same time, so I've had this one for a while. But it's got all sorts of cool like spreads and ways that you can assess the cards. And so I did go forward on it, and it talked about like the star ritual, when you say pull this one card and you're looking for everything in it. So you think from a first viewer perspective, say if you're that person, what it must look like to be in that card, and then a third person perspective, right? But it goes into how, say, the opposite meaning of this card, which we're not going into reversals, not yet anyway, but it talks about cynicism, judgment of yourself and others, refusing to do introspection, and not having dreams. So again, we're touching on the subconscious. But I really like how the author worded her viewpoint on this card when I read it tonight. So I'm going to read it to you guys to share with you as I hold the card up. You guys can focus on this while I read. I stand on a path heading toward gentle hills. It is night. The stars start to glimmer. I recognize some familiar constellations. I notice one star, however, that has many points. It is like no other. It appears to blink at times. I walk in its direction. I pass through the gentle hills. The silence is rich. I enter a valley full of flowers. A huge lake glistens under the indigo night sky. There are 2 water vessels near the pond. I remove all of my clothes. I balance easily as I kneel with my left knee firmly on the land and my right foot in the refreshing water. I hold the vessels and the water starts to move through me as it pours from both. I am part of a flow that I don't understand but trust. The many-pointed star appears to pulse. My spirit and body are one in this holy place. So when I read that, I'm like, hey, that's cool. I need to totally share that. So that sums up the star. So like I was talking about at the beginning of my Go Live, for anybody who watches this, who's on our Fool's Journey with us, if you see anything else with the star card, feel free to leave it in the comments for discussion. Or if you have questions on your tarot journey, of course, it's what the group is for. Whenever you think of these questions, or if you want to bounce an idea off somebody, you can leave it in the group. And then tomorrow we will go over the next card in the Major Arcana, which would be the Moon card, which is a pretty card. And we're nearing the end of our journey with the Major Arcana, guys. So that's exciting. And then we're going to progress into our minors. So we still have a lot of learning to do together. I'm glad you're on this journey with me. And I think that we're good for tonight. So in that case, I will see you tomorrow at the same time. And I hope you have a good evening. Good night.